I've completed the planning phase of the vase in pencil. So just roughly in pencil, I drew out the design. This is side A, which shows the fight between Hercules and Anatoios. And I've indicated sort of the bands of where things should go. And this is the other side that shows the musicians, the set of 4 figures with the musicians. And there's a different pattern at the bottom of side B. This is known as side B. So let's refer to our art through the ages so that we can have a color reference. What makes this nice is you can see here that there are basically 2 colors used in the design, and it is a black, and then it is another color that is a very muted ochre. But I am using gouache, and to make it easy in gouache, I have this set of basic gouache colors, 12 gouache colors. So we're obviously going to use the black, and then here, sorry, here is the ochre. And the thing with gouache is whenever you're going to use a color, you need to use that color, you have to mix it at the beginning so that you ensure the color is consistent. Therefore, I am not going to mix any color. I'm going to use this ochre, yellow ochre, straight from the tube. It's going to be a lot brighter than what you see in this example, but it will just make it a lot easier in terms of creating an even coverage of this yellow on the whole design of the vase. So I'm basically going to be using just these 2 colors in my design. And I'm going to use the various images that I gathered to know the color reference of where which color goes. Now the fun part starts. We can begin to paint. The vase is decorated by a famous Greek painter, Euphronios. Ironically, during Greek times, the potter and painter were 2 separate people, and the potter was the most admired. Euphronios' work is notable because he paid attention to human anatomy. Just look at the taunt muscles on Hercules and Anatoios' bodies as they wrestle to the death. Ancient Greeks admired athletically built, healthy human bodies. They believed the more athletic the body, the closer that person were to the gods. It's no wonder they invented the Olympic Games. And of course, they competed in the nude. All the spectators could admire the beautiful bodies in motion. You also see that everywhere in Greek art. Bodies contorting, stretching, and reaching. Bodies frozen in motion to show off the muscles at work. Look at the famous Discobolus, or discus thrower, sculpted by Myron in around 450 BC. It was sculpted about 50 or 60 years before the vase we are making a replica of. The artist chose to sculpt the moment before the athlete throws the discus. It's also the moment when the body's muscles contract and reveal its form the best. Myron froze the action and arranged the body and limbs so that 2 intersecting arcs were formed, creating the impression of a tightly stretched bow a moment before the string is released. This tension is not, however, mirrored in the athlete's face. His face is serene, with no distinct expression. Euphronios, master of the red figure. One of these younger and more adventurous painters was Euphronios, whose crater depicting the struggle between Herakles and Anatoios reveals the exciting possibilities of the new red figure technique. Antaios was a Libyan giant, a son of earth, and he derived his power from contact with the ground. To defeat him, Herakles had to lift him up into the air and strangle him while no part of the giant's body touched the earth. But Euphronios did not represent the moment of Herakles' triumph. The two wrestle on the ground, and Antaios is still possessing that enormous strength he gathers from the earth. Nonetheless, Herakles has the upper hand. The giant's face is a mask of pain. His eyes roll and his teeth are bared. His right arm is paralyzed with the fingers limp. Euphronios used diluted glaze to show Antaios' unkempt golden brown hair, intentionally contrasted with the neat coiffure and carefully trimmed beard of the emotionless Greek hero. The artist also used thinned glaze to delineate the muscles of both figures. But Euphronios was interested not only in rendering human anatomy convincingly, he also wished to show that his figures occupy space. The conventional composite posture for the human figure, which communicates so well the specific parts of the human body, was deliberately rejected as Euphronios attempted to reproduce how a particular human body is seen. He presented, for example, the right thigh of Antaios from the front. The lower leg disappears behind the giant, and one glimpses only part of the right foot. The viewer must make the connection between the upper leg and the foot in the mind. Euphronios did not paint a two-dimensional panel filled with figures in stereotypical postures, as his archaic and pre-Greek predecessors always did. His panel is a window onto a mythological world with protagonists occupying a three-dimensional space. This was a revolutionary new conception of what a picture was supposed to be. How are we able to identify Herakles from Anatoios? There are clear clues. The first is that Euphronios painted the name of the character next to its body. The one with disheveled hair is Anatoios, and the one with the hip Greek hairstyle is Hercules or Herakles. The second clue is in the items closest to Herakles. In the first of the 12 labors, Herakles had to fight against the Nemean lion, which he killed with his bare hands. Herakles is often depicted wearing a lion's skin. In this depiction, the lion's skin is hung up close to Herakles. He probably took it off just before the fight. The other two items are also signal items that let us know it is Herakles depicted here. The vase is on display in the Louvre Museum in Paris, France. It is labeled as item G103 in room 652 as part of the Campana collection acquired in 1861. If you ever have the privilege to visit the Louvre, you can go and check it out. We've talked a bit about side A, which illustrates the epic fight between Herakles and Anatoios. But what's on the other side? It was common practice in Greek ceramic art to illustrate a dramatic fight scene on the one side or one half of the vase, and then paint a peaceful, serene scene on the other side. The same is true for our vase. On the other side, also referred to as side B, we view a pleasant scene of musicians entertaining a crowd. The audience is seated on the right. The rest of the vase is decorated with palmettes and other abstract rim patterns. Something to take note of is the rim pattern below the scene on side A and side B is not the same. I want to talk a bit about my paint choice. I chose to use gouache to paint with on my project. If you don't have gouache, acrylic or poster paint will work just as well as the gouache. It's important that you work with a paint medium you like. Then the painting process will be more enjoyable for you, like it's supposed to be. I like gouache for various reasons. Gouache is very versatile. You can work with it using minimal water, then it's bright and opaque, like poster paint. Or you can add lots of water to it, then it begins to behave like watercolor. Since it is a water-based paint, the cleanup process is very easy and quick. It's hassle-free. Another thing that's great is that you can reactivate dried up gouache. You just add a drop or two of clean water, allow the pigment to absorb it a bit, and paint with it again. That's something you can't do with acrylic or poster paint. Once acrylic paint is dry, it's dry, and it's a hassle to clean up your palette. In that regard, it makes gouache a more economic paint as well, since you won't throw away dried up paint. Something you need to be conscious of is to not overpaint too much with gouache. Otherwise, your work can turn into a soup instead of the beautiful rainbow it's supposed to be. You can work in layers with gouache if you dilute it a lot and use it in a similar way as you would with watercolor. But if you work with the paint applied thickly, you can't paint layers over layers over layers. It's not like acrylic. So just be sensitive to that. I kept the color palette simple. I chose to limit it to 2 colors, black and yellow ochre. I also painted straight from the tube, no mixing of the color. That way I was assured of consistent color throughout the project. I used a fine brush to paint the outlines of the figures on side A with black first. Then I painted with the yellow ochre. It is always best practice with water-based paint to paint with the lightest color first and work your way through to the darkest colors. I turned the vase around and painted the main scene on side B as well, in the same manner, first with a black outline and then fill in with yellow ochre. Thereafter, I shifted my focus to the decorative band below on both sides of the vase. After that was completed, I could paint the background and handles in solid black. And leaving the best for last, I painted the palmettes at the top. Then I allowed it to dry very well and painted the inside of the vase completely black as well. To preserve the paint, I coated the whole vase with a gloss varnish. And voila, the vase is complete. During the whole process of painting the vase, you'll see I'm working on a towel. This is to protect the other side of the vase from scratching on the tabletop surface whilst I'm painting. Another great tip is, since we're working with only 2 colors throughout the project, you can have 2 water containers, each one dedicated for a specific color. When I'm cleaning a brush with black paint on, for example, I will clean it in the water container dedicated for the black, and vice versa. That way, the water lasts longer and you don't have to replace it as often. It will also ensure that your colors remain pure and bright because you're not cleaning your brushes with murky water. You might be wondering, but who is this Herakles we keep on talking about? The Greeks actually pronounce his name as Herakles, and in English we know him as Hercules. I am going to read to you from the New Universal Encyclopedia. Let me page to under H. It says Hercules was a hero in Greek classical mythology. He was the son of Zeus by Alcmene, wife of Amphitryon, the king of Thebes. The jealous Hera, wife of Zeus, sent 2 serpents to destroy the baby Hercules in his cradle, but the infant strangled them both with his bare hands. Receiving the hand of Megara, daughter of the king of Thebes, as reward for having slain Erginus, king of Orchomenus, the oppressor of the Thebans, he had by her several children, whom driven mad by his old enemy Hera, he slew. So he turned mad and killed his own wife and children. After being purified of this deed, Hercules was instructed by the Delphic oracle to go to Tiryns and serve Eurystheus, the king, for 12 years. It was for Eurystheus that he performed the celebrated 12 labors: the slaying of the Nemean lion, which he strangled with his own hands, the destruction of the many-headed hydra of Lernae, a swamp near Argos, the capture alive of the Arcadian stag with golden antlers and brazen feet, the capture alive in a net of the Erymanthian boar, the cleansing of the stables of Augeas, which he carried out in a night by turning the rivers Alpheus and Peneus through them, the destruction of the Stempalian birds, monsters with brazen beaks and claws and feeders on human flesh, the capture of the mad bull with Poseidon had sent to Minos, king of Crete, the capture of the man-eating horses of Diomedes, king of the Bistones in Thrace, the taking of the girdle of Hippolyte, queen of the Amazons, the seizure of the oxen of Geryon, the 3-headed monster of the island of Erythea, the taking of the 3 golden apples from the garden of the Hesperides, the bringing of Cerberus, the 3-headed dog of Hades, from the lower world. Besides these labors, Hercules performed many other deeds. In the war between the gods and the giants, he assisted Zeus to victory. He accompanied Argonauts in the expedition in the quest of the Golden Fleece, and he rescued Hesione, daughter of Laomedon, from a sea monster. Going mad a second time, he murdered his friend Iphitus, ordered by the Delphic oracle to work 3 years for wages as an atonement, and to give the wages to Eurytus, father of Iphitus. He entered the service of Omphale, queen of Lydia. On a visit to Calydon, he won the hand of Deianira, who, becoming jealous, sent him a poisonous shirt steeped in the blood of the centaur Nessus. Hercules put the shirt on, and the poison caused him such pain that he tore strips of flesh from his body in his attempt to pull off the shirt. In this condition he was brought to Trachis and made arrangements for his own funeral pyre. When the pyre began to burn, a cloud descended upon it, in which Hercules was borne away to Olympus. The worship of Hercules was first introduced to Greece by the Phoenicians, the original object of adoration being the Babylonian sun god Baal, who goes through 12 labors as he goes through the 12 signs of the zodiac. In Italy, the worship of the Greek Herakles was combined with that of an old Italian hero. And that is the end of the inscription in the New Universal Encyclopedia. The fight scene that is depicted on our replica between Hercules and Anatoios is from the 11th labor. I'm going to read to you the full account of the 11th labor from a very cool website titled Hercules, Greece's Greatest Hero, and it is from the Perseus Digital Library. The 11th labor is the retrieval of the apples of the Hesperides. Poor Hercules, after 8 years and 1 month, after performing 10 superhuman labors, he was still not off the hook. Eurystheus demanded 2 more labors from the hero, since he did not count the Hydra or the Augean stables as properly done. Eurystheus commanded Hercules to bring him golden apples, which belonged to Zeus, king of the gods. Hera had given these apples to Zeus as a wedding gift, so surely this task was impossible. Hera, who didn't want to see Hercules succeed, would never permit him to steal one of her prized possessions, would she? These apples were kept in a garden at the northern edge of the world, and they were guarded not only by a 100-headed dragon named Ladon, but also by the Hesperides, nymphs who were daughters of Atlas, the Titan who held the sky and the earth upon his shoulders. Hercules' first problem was that he didn't know where the garden was. He journeyed through Libya, Egypt, Arabia, and Asia, having adventures along the way, but still not knowing where this garden is. He was stopped by Kyknos, the son of the war god Ares, who demanded that Hercules fight him. After the fight was broken up by a thunderbolt, Hercules continued on to Illyria, where he seized the sea god Nereus, who knew the garden's secret location. Nereus transformed himself into all kinds of shapes, trying to escape, but Hercules held tight and didn't release Nereus until he got the information he needed. Continuing on his quest, Hercules was stopped by Anatoios, the son of the sea god Poseidon. He also challenged Hercules to a fight. But Hercules defeated him in a wrestling match after he realized that every time he touches the ground, he gets rejuvenated by the earth, because the earth was Antoios' mother. So Hercules takes Antoios and lifts him off the ground, and in that way is able to defeat Antoios. After that, Hercules met up with Busiris, another of Poseidon's sons. He was captured and was led to an altar to be a human sacrifice. But Hercules luckily escaped, killing Busiris, and journeyed on. Hercules came to the rock on the Mount Caucasus, where Prometheus was chained. Prometheus, a trickster who made fun of the gods and stole the secret of fire from them, was sentenced by Zeus to a horrible fate. He was bound to the mountain, and every day a monstrous eagle came and ate his liver, pecking and pecking away at Prometheus's tortured body. After the eagle flew off, Prometheus's liver grew back, and the next day he had to endure the eagle's painful visit all over again. This went on for 30 years until Hercules showed up and killed the eagle. In gratitude, Prometheus told Hercules the secret to getting the apples. He would have to send Atlas after them instead of going himself. Now Atlas hated his job. His job was to hold up the sky and the earth. He hated his job so much, he would agree to the task of fetching the apples in order to pass his burden over to Hercules. Everything happened as Prometheus had predicted, and Atlas went to get the apples while Hercules was stuck in Atlas's place with the weight of the world on his shoulders. When Atlas returned with the golden apples, he told Hercules he would take them to Eurystheus himself, and asked Hercules to stay there and hold this heavy load for the rest of time. Hercules slyly agreed, but asked Atlas whether he could take it back again, just for a moment, while the hero put some soft padding on his shoulders to help him bear the weight of the sky and the earth, since it's a weight he's now going to carry for all eternity. Atlas agreed. He put the apples on the ground and lifted the burden onto his own shoulders. And so Hercules picked up the apples and quickly ran off, carrying them back uneventfully to Eurystheus. There was one final problem. Because the apples belonged to the gods, they could not remain with Eurystheus. After all the trouble Hercules went through to get them, he had to return them to Athena, who took them back to the garden at the northern edge of the world. And that is the end of the 11th labor. I can't believe it. The project is complete. I've had so much fun, and I hope that you will have just as much fun whilst you're making this vase. See you soon. Bye.